right, so you selected to read Economic Issues Article 2, which is about the American unemployment system and how it is broken. So again, you will see questions in green, which are ELA, and questions in blue, which are global. So it says, the coronavirus crisis, which so far has left at least 33 million out of a job, has revealed many uncomfortable truths about America, including the country's unemployment system. It is broken, and in many cases, it is broken by design. After years of little attention and underfunding, benefit systems across the country have been left starved and in disrepair. In many states, benefits such as money, food stamps, etc., are purposely difficult to collect, and application processes are difficult to navigate. So the question here is a global one, and it says, what do you think are the historical circumstances or causes that led to the unemployment system being broken? The system has been stumbling along, and now a crisis has hit, said Andrew Stetner, a senior fellow at the Century Foundation. Then people realize we actually want this thing to work, and it doesn't work in the way people thought it would. Unemployment differs from state to state, where what you get depends on where you live. The first state to implement an unemployment insurance program was Wisconsin in 1932. The general idea was extended nationally, meaning to all states, under the Social Security Act of 1935. In the debate leading up to the law, some people pushed for a federal program, meaning a national one. But ultimately, what was put into place was a system where individual states set standards within a set of federal guidelines. The program is funded through unemployment insurance taxes that employers pay to the state and federal government. And the amount collected by states varies, as do the benefits they provide, the way they set up their systems, and the way they deal with their applicants. So another global question says, according to the information above, each state gets different unemployment benefits. What is an example from history when people were treated unequally, leading to negative effects? Goes on and says, and so what the country is wound up with is a patchwork of unemployment systems. Many basic state programs provide for 26 weeks of benefits, but that varies. Alabama, for example, cut its maximum from 26 weeks to 14 weeks at the start of the year based on its state unemployment rate. How much claimants are paid varies as well. The national weekly average was $387 as of February 2020, but was just $215 in Mississippi, while it was $550 in Massachusetts. So your ELA question is, do you think it's fair that some states pay different unemployment rates? So many red, meaning Republican, really conservative states, and purple, Republican and Democrats, states have been particularly bad in underfunding their programs, meaning not giving enough and cutting benefits, while blue states, more Democratic liberal ones, have been more generous. That reflects a bigger push within the Republican Party to pare down the social safety net and make it harder for people to access programs. It's played out recently on Medicaid expansion, which 14 states have rejected. But Democratic-leaning states aren't off the hook, as many of their unemployment safety net systems are severely insufficient as well. So the question is, how are different ideas and beliefs affecting the unemployment benefits people receive in each state? The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act, is a $2.2 trillion stimulus package signed into law in March, and it makes some temporary adjustments to unemployment insurance. It adds $600 a week in federal benefits through the end of July, extends eligibility by 14 weeks, and expands the pool of workers who can apply to include freelancers, gig workers, and those who are self-employed. Still, poor infrastructure and funding in different states makes accessing those benefits hard. So the question is, the CARES Act was created by the U.S. government to help all people have access to increased unemployment benefits. Is this organization more capitalist or socialist? So if you forgot what those terms mean, you can go to this website, and there is a handy little chart there. So going on, it says some states simply don't have the money in their unemployment trust funds, which are funded through unemployment taxes, to keep up with the surge in demand. When states run out of money during the Great Recession, which is a sharp decline in economic activity during the late 2000s, about 3 dozen did. Then they borrow from the federal government to keep up funding, and that's money they have to pay back. States are already running out of that money now. Many states have refused to raise taxes to fund unemployment insurance. They're always betting that the feds will bail them out if things get really bad, and no one expected it to get this bad, said Holzer. So Holzer mentions above that many states rely on the federal government to supply them with more money, which raises the national debt rather than raise taxes. Which do you think is a better option, and why? So What's happened in many parts of the country is unemployment systems have gradually been whittled down. Part of the problem is that many people on the left, Democrats, have been more focused on getting aid to workers, and many people on the right, Republicans, have focused on cutting funding altogether. So infrastructure has been neglected or not paid attention to. People pay attention when there's a crisis, and then it's too late to act. So, what is your opinion on how the government has been handling the economy during the COVID crisis? Explain your response. That's partially what's happened this time around. As McKenna Kelly at The Verge recently documented, multiple states are still using COBOL, a coding language dating back to the 1950s. In their systems, in April, New Jersey put out a call for COBOL programmers to reinforce its program. The program with the language isn't necessarily that it's a bad one. It's that there aren't a lot of people who know how to use it anymore. That means there aren't enough people to fix bugs in the system or update it to take on an influx of applications. No one could have anticipated this kind of a crush, but my God, it's inexcusable, Holzer said. There are no guarantees that even the most state-of-the-art UI system could handle the level of claims that are coming in right now. But as the weeks tick on and people still aren't able to get through, it's hard not to imagine something could have gone better, especially for those waiting on benefits. New York, for example, has been one of the states hardest hit by coronavirus crisis and the economic downturn. It saw a 16,000% increase in calls to its Department of Labor and a 900% increase in traffic to its website in late March. The state enlisted Google in April to help reboot its system, but many New Yorkers are still waiting. The case for Michael Klein, who prior to the crisis had been driving for Uber and Lyft in Rockland County. He applied for unemployment on March 16th, and nearly 2 months later, his claim is still pending. The unemployment line is worthless, he told me, ticking through the number of combinations he's deciphered to get ahead on the automated system, only to eventually be hung up on. He estimates he's called 400 times. I'm working harder and longer hours trying to get my claim approved than I ever worked as a rideshare driver. In a statement to Vox, New York Labor Department Commissioner Roberta Reardon said that the state paid $4.6 billion in benefits to more than 1 million people from March 9th to April 30th. But she acknowledged the frustration and anxiety those who have been able to collect are feeling. I will not rest until every New Yorker has access to the unemployment benefits they're entitled to, she said. And it's not just New York gig workers and freelancers who are waiting to be approved under expanded pandemic benefits. It's workers who would have straightforwardly qualified under the typical regime as well. One Brooklyn physical therapy technician I spoke with was laid off on March 18th, and her application was stuck in a sort of limbo until May 12th, when it was finally approved. Within the first few minutes of searching for other New Yorkers to speak to for the story, I inadvertently ran to 2 people I'm connected to who are also stuck waiting for benefits. The Department of Labor says they'll be paid retroactively, meaning later, but that doesn't make the wait any easier. Considering what you read in your experiences, what is your opinion about how the New York state government handled the coronavirus unemployment problem? So, beyond administrative infrastructure shortcomings, the stinginess of benefits, there's also a very real issue that unemployment insurance is not designed for the modern day workforce and leaves people out. When the program was created in the 1930s and intervening years, it was designed for a largely white male workforce who were breadwinners and who were laid off for short periods of time and called back, Dixon explained. Like a factory that would temporarily put workers on leave during a slow period. Employers wanted unemployment because they wanted their workers to be available to come back. But today, more layoffs are permanent and there's no relationship with employees. And the system has largely left women out, many of whom work part-time, Dixon added. It hasn't changed very much over the years to actually account for women and the need for part-time in some cases, or folks who are doing gig work and independent contracting. So what are some solutions? If the U.S. were to start over, it may very well try to deal with unemployment insurance at a federal level, Vroman said. Internationally, almost every country that has unemployment insurance has a national system. But if not, one could at the very least envision a stronger role of the federal government so that states don't take such a diverse approach and systems aren't so neglected. It could implement baseline benefits for states and modernize unemployment systems. We've seen the federal government take a bigger role right now, and it could be the way always, though that may come down to political will. So now you'll have 2 questions here and you're done.